So, Jim, last week on the show, I mentioned to our listeners about some new guidance issued by the U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. That guidance it's called, quote, Guidance for Recipients of Federal Funding regarding unlawful discrimination. Now, that guidance, while it's really directed toward recipients of federal funding, it also talks about, it specifically mentions its guidance directed toward private and public entities that receive federal funds, but it specifically stated it should not just be limited to those private and public entities receiving federal funds. And so a lot of people are reading this much more broadly, that it does apply, this guidance applies to the private sector as well, even if they aren't receiving federal funds, number one. And number two, even if they're wrong about that, that it may not necessarily apply to private entities that aren't receiving federal funds. It certainly offers a glimpse into how the EEOC is going to be interpreting DE&I efforts. And so it's really kind of a significant development here. As we know, the Trump administration has been very focused on ridding the employment workplace of DE&I efforts. And so I'd like to get your initial take on kind of Pam Bondi's guidance.
Yeah, no, this is a very interesting development, Bert. And this is information that's been sort of coming out in fits and starts since the administration took over, and it goes back to this basic question I think that employers have been asking since late January of this year. It's like, well, what is unlawful DEI? Like, what can I do? What can't I do? Right? Because the administration came out with these executive orders, right, and said, using that phrase, unlawful DEI. Well, what does that mean? A couple of months ago, the EEOC issued some guidance about what that could mean. And then I think this guidance issued just a week or two ago clarifies things even more. A lot of it is, I think, stuff that we already sort of could guess and figure out, but it's, I think, helpful for employers to understand the types of activities, the types of policies, the types of programs that are really going to catch the eye of the administration.
Put this DOJ guidance, or if an employer in the private sector that's not receiving federal funding, if they're following any of these practices that this guidance suggests are illegal, could that have implications for a private employer with the Department of Justice?
Absolutely, Bert. And the administration has been forecasting this since day one. They said, like, well, how do we make them, what's our enforcement tool here, right? How can we make employers get rid of what we think are unlawful DEI programs? And they've focused on a statute called the False Claims Act. And I don't know if you've talked about this at other sessions before, but the False Claims Act is a really powerful tool that the federal government uses to combat fraud against the federal government. And I usually associate it with things like Medicare fraud, where there's like people who are racking up like, fake invoices to the government. And then it's usually something like billions of dollars worth of fraud perpetrated against the government. Well, the administration has decided that this is how they're going to use, this is their enforcement tool for going against folks that they think are implementing unlawful DEI programs. And you mentioned criminal liability. False Claims Act has that. It also has, treble damages per violation, right? So if you're a federal contractor and you're submitting invoices for reimbursement, each time you do that, it's going to be like triple damages. So these things get up really, really quickly, right? The expenses get really, really quickly. That's in contrast, like you said, Bert, like the NLRA, which has no, it just a make whole remedy. It has no punitive civil penalties or things like Title VII that have caps on the amounts of damages, right? So this False Claims Act has really got the business community a little bit extra nervous, right, and a little bit more careful about what's going on here, right?
Level up your HR game with an AIM Employers Association membership. Get 24/7 expert support, exclusive training, and a network of peers. Join thousands of HR leaders building better organizations. Call AIM at 800-948-5700 or visit aimea.org today to learn about becoming a member.